もう無理。疲れたよ。
オカリーは途中で諦める人じゃないよ。マユシーは知ってるもん。オカリーは絶対諦める人じゃない。
These are all Steins Gate spin-offs. I read all of them, not just the ones I own physical copies of, but all of them. The Famicom game, the Hello Kitty collaboration, like 22 different manga series, every single audio drama CD. I went through all of them. Because I mean, after putting together my 3.5-hour video essay on every single episode of Steins Gate, plus like 8 hours of other Steins Gate video essays, the only thing left to do was to go through all, holy shit, there's like 70 titles on this list, and we're gonna go through all of them in chronological order. Before we do though, let's just quickly run through our tier list criteria so we can rank them on how much you should watch or read or listen to all of them.
S ティア、シュタインズゲート。
S tier is, I mean, this is what we're all here for. Obviously, the original visual novel and anime go in here, but there might also be a couple other surprise entries in S tier.
A ティア、ミーニングフル。
I wouldn't call A tier mandatory viewing, but they are really fucking good because they add depth to the world and characters of Steins Gate, and any self-respecting fan should at least check them out.
B ティア、インテレスティング。
B tier is good, really good in fact. Now these won't necessarily deepen your understanding of Steins Gate and the characters or whatever, but they are interesting enough to at least be worth your time.
C ティア、ポイントレス。
C tier is where the derivative works milking the anime for cash go. Not necessarily bad, but the only people who would really enjoy this should maybe consider going outside a little bit more. Okay, but just as soon as I finish this video.
D ティア、バッド。
Finally, D tier is not just boring and pointless, but actively ruins the characters and world of Steins Gate by existing. Keep in mind, this is my opinion, although let's be honest, I am the most qualified person to have one. But not only do I not recommend you read any of them, if you actually like them, you suck and I hate you. Personally. Derek. From the top.
シュタインズゲート、ビジュアルノベル。
Steins Gate? It's Steins Gate? If you don't like it, A, why are you here? And B, have you considered politely going and fucking yourself? Obviously, this goes in the Steins Gate tier, and if you're wondering if anything beats the original, either you haven't watched enough of my videos, or you're one of the idiots enabling me and the psychotic behavior that produced this entire hour-long video. Either way, stay tuned, I guess, for, again, and I cannot stress this enough, 1 hour of my autistic dipshit rambling. Don't look at me. This is your fault, Mom.
年越しバーチャルカウントダウンボイスクリス編、マユリ編。
Guys, let's be honest. Are we surprised that the first Steins Gate spin-off is basically pornography? Maybe if I talk in my usual exasperated voice, but this time about 20% more smug. Wow, a virtual date with either Kurisu or Mayuri is exactly everything I ever wanted. I don't already own actual Steins Gate pornography and totally want 5 minutes of ASMR fan service instead. Honestly though, I've listened to worse porn CDs. I mean, the Kurisu one at least throws you for kind of a weird loop talking about the meaning of life. But guys, doujins exist for a reason. C tier.
シュタインズゲートラジオ未来ガジェット電波局コミケ特別編。
Okay, look, I know I just said that cheap fan service that could easily be pornography isn't really my thing, but can you blame me if I put the CD where they force Kurisu into a maid costume in B tier? What's that? You can? Well, fuck you too, I guess. This is kind of hard to rank because it's literally just like 8 minutes of bullshit as an excuse to have an interview with the voice actors, the only translated part out there being about 15 seconds I did for my drama CDs video, so I guess you'll just have to trust me when I tell you they're really insightful and entertaining to listen to, you utter buffoons. Sorry, where were we? B tier. B tier.
シュタインズゲートラジオ未来ガジェット電波局。
Okay, now, if this wasn't clear from the last review, Steins Gate Radio is mostly a bunch of bullshit, by which I mean this is absolutely quintessential Steins Gate bullshit, where they make radio commercials about the future gadgets, and all of them suck. There's definitely a limit to how much you can milk out of a single gag like this, but this isn't it. Yet. B tier.
シュタインズゲートドラマ CD アルファ愛心メイズのバベルダイバージェンス 0.571046%
Being the first drama CD that's an actual story and not a load of hot bullshit, you might be forgiven for thinking that it's probably a little undercooked. Because it is. Not that there's anything wrong with the story about Kurisu's broken relationship with her father, it's just that this was literally adapted twice in the future, and this is by far the worst version. So listening to this would be like pretending pizza was better before they invented also putting cheese on top. C tier.
マジ94コマシュタインズゲート世界線変動率 X○91015%
Look, I'm not gonna say I learned to read from Calvin and Hobbes, but wait, yes I am. It's not true, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Anyway, I grew up reading this shit. Calvin and Hobbes, Bloom County, those first few years when Garfield was actually edgy and subversive, I read it all. So when I say that I appreciate the efficient and thoughtful 4-panel comic, take it to heart. To me, this isn't just fun. This is motherfucking art. So the Steins Gate comic, by contrast, is just kind of sad. Some of them are funny, kind of, I guess, but this feels like that weird kid who thinks if he just drinks milk while saying the names of his favorite characters and laughs so hard it comes out of his nose, people will have to laugh along with him. No, I didn't, and not only did I not laugh, you smell and you're covered in milk, Derek. C tier.
シュタインズゲートドラマ CD ベータ無限原点のアークライトダイバージェンス 1.130205%
This is one of those projects I want you to all watch, because the fan subber, this dude going by Sarkoth, made visual novel style animated videos for the entire thing, and it is just gorgeous. Seriously, I mean, look at how well the text and lip flaps sync up. It's like every little detail. Oh, right, the story. So, Arclight of the Point at Infinity is the foundation of Steins Gate Zero, which means I hate it. Well, no, sort of. Okay, honestly, listening to this made me understand Zero a little bit more. Not appreciate it. Dear God, no, this actually made me hate it just that much more. See, this wasn't written to be a sequel to Steins Gate. It was written to be just another side story. A what if, asking about a world where he let Kurisu die, where he couldn't recover from the shock of being the one to take his lover's life. So, the main problem I have with Steins Gate Zero, especially the anime, is that there is no universe where Mayuri would not have slapped Okabe. Fundamentally, the concept of Steins Gate Zero does not belong in the story of Steins Gate. And the thing is, this entire short story is basically the embodiment of this idea, because Mayuri doesn't slap him, and then she gets in the time machine with Suzuha when she realizes just how wrong that is. So naturally, my question becomes, what the fuck? How did this short story showing something that should not have happened suddenly become the official sequel to the story? Capitalism or something, I guess. Jesus Christ. Oh, this is A tier, by the way.
シュタインズゲート漫画
Oh, look, I know there's already people who are just itching to buy this, so let's just put a stop to it before we even begin. This is ass. In fact, it was so ass that it literally got canceled halfway through, and it was only because the anime came out and suddenly left everyone with not enough bullshit to spend their money on that it ever got finished, except this time following the anime instead of the visual novel. And while I normally commend the continuation for being slightly less rushed than it started, because let's be honest, saying it speedruns the story of Steins Gate would be motherfucking Teresa levels of generous, the confusing tone just makes the entire project a completely unforgivable mess that I wouldn't wipe my ass with. Somehow, not the worst Steins Gate manga, but dear God, this is easily the most offensive one. D tier.
シュタインズゲートドラマ CD ガンマ暗黒次元のハイドダイバージェンス 2.615074%
You know, it'd be hard enough to say the words darkest timeline with a straight face after watching Community 3 or 4 times, but it really doesn't help that they literally made evil Okabe drink Mountain Dew. Yes, not only did they make him kill a bitch, they turned him into a Sigma male, a gamer. I mean, if those last 3 words didn't make you sweat at least a little bit, you must be one stone cold motherfucker. Oh, and also Mayuri has cancer. This is somehow not actually that bad, but let's be real for a second. It would be better if there were like any chance of taking this even a little bit seriously. Big ups for Moeka fans though, because this is the one timeline where Okabe also loses his virginity. B tier.
シュタインズゲートアンソロジー
If the Yonkoma books were more pointless than the eraser end of a pencil, this is after you've used it to erase 3 or 4 things. That makes sense. Shut up. This is the first collection of short stories, my favorite being the one where Mayuri is the princess in the Alpaca Man world, and while I'm not gonna say these don't go anywhere interesting, I will say that these are all too short and lack the space to go anywhere interesting. Oh, wait. I see the problem here. Let's be honest, the next time one of these comes up, I'm probably just gonna start going on random fucking tangents and pretend it's legitimate content. Are you not entertained, idiot? C tier.
傍観のリベリオン
And finally, we get to the first manga that's actually a proper side story. And it's, I'm gonna be honest with you right now, it's ass. This feels like the author was trying just so hard to add to the story, and it just ends up a complete clusterfuck. Not only did they just throw in all these completely random details to flesh out the story of Suzuha, her father, and the time machine, to the point where they all contradict and the entire thing stops making fucking sense. The main antagonist of the story is a girl whose personality is everything. As in literally every possible adjective that could apply to literally any anime character stereotype you could apply to her. And yes, this is as much a horrible mess as you think it is. Still somehow not the worst manga on this list, but this is easily one of the most contrived derivative pieces of shit I've ever read, not just on this list, but also in my entire goddamn life. D tier.
オーディオシリーズラボメンナンバー001から008まで
Hey, wouldn't it be cool if we had a story told from the point of view of every single character? Because the producers had the exact same thought, by which I mean their train of thought literally ended there, and whatever writer they hired was just left to pick up the mess. Imagine this as like a Where Were You When 9/11 Happened, but Steins Gate, which is exactly as lame and contrived as it sounds. Oh, and it also came with a showtune-esque ballad for every character, which is pretty cool, but like, it's not like I would ever listen to any of these a second time. Far from the worst drama city, but this may just be the most pointless. C tier.
シュタインズゲートラジオ未来ガジェット電波局コミケ78特別編ラボメン円卓会議
So this is the first of a common theme where they need to raise money for rent. The most interesting part about this is where they talk about going to Comic-Con to sell cosplay DVDs of all the girls, but not only does this not go anywhere, the idea is basically better fleshed out the other million times this happens. Interesting enough for the banter, but this is definitely a C tier release.
ラジオ未来ガジェット電波局コミケ78特別編
I think I'm starting to see the problem with my tiers. This is completely pointless, but in the exact same way that the lab itself is. As in, Kurisu literally sends a D-mail to prevent Okabe from telling everyone what her 3 sizes are live on radio. Anyway, Mamoru's delivery here is honestly just so fucking funny that even if it didn't have the excellent banter with the cast, this would still have been B tier. Absolutely excellent.
妖艶のバルハラ
Hopefully, the phrase Okabe is literally God should make you wince a bit, but just in case it doesn't, not the worst spin-off, but easily the fucking dumbest. See, this is the timeline where Okabe, Kurisu, and Daru get kidnapped and taken to France to build the time machine, which might sound interesting until you get to the part where they escape and CERN tries to kill them but can't due to world-line convergence. Not as in like the original where Okabe always escapes because there's no universe where he can be killed, but as in like they put a gun to his head and pull the trigger and he doesn't die because in this story, convergence is literally just magic. This is what we call the Schrodinger's Bard problem, where you can't explain something in your story because the second you do, the structure of your entire narrative pops one in the dome and jumps off a bridge. That being said, I almost want to recommend this because you'll notice this section has been using all sorts of lovely footage taken from Valkyrie's Rebirth, an absurdly ambitious fan project, turning this into basically a full-on short visual novel. Of course, ambitious being the operative word here, because, and maybe this is the fault of the engine rather than the developers, but it's less stable than your recently divorced uncle, so you might consider going and watching their recorded playthrough on YouTube instead. Absurd though, naturally being the other word doing the heavy lifting, because, well, the sheer amount of effort on display from this fan project makes this almost good. No, the story is still an abysmal fucking train wreck. D tier.
史上最強のスライトフィーバー
Okay, this is the first of many of what we're gonna call Steins Gate but Kurisu. And let's just start out with a tip for all you aspiring manga writers out there. If you're hired to write for an existing IP, start by actually reading the fucking original. Not have the character you're supposed to be developing act in the literal opposite manner she should, you fucking illiterate buffoon. There's a reason they never finished the last volume of this piece of shit, and that's because it's easily the worst spin-off on this list. You know, the one that includes literally every spin-off. If the author and or the producers are watching this, I hate you and hope you spend like half an hour tomorrow looking for your keys. Ooh, yeah, that's how you know it made me angry. D tier.
温州のブラウニアンモーション
This I really wanted to like, or rather, a good portion of the Steins Gate Reddit is completely convinced that Mr. Braun's backstory is even better than the original visual novel, which in retrospect actually should have been my first clue that it sucks balls, but live and learn, I guess. One more tip for any aspiring authors: when you want to share how your character became an unforgivably bad person, you need to show them actually doing at least one bad thing. Literally, the only thing Mr. Braun does in this story is look for an IBN 5100, which CERN acquires by stealing from Suzuha, except guess what? Not only was he not the one that found it, he stops them from killing her when they come to take it. Yeah, his Walter White moment is apparently not doing anything and then literally saving someone's life. Yikes, watch out Team Rocket, there's a new bad motherfucker in town. This is easily one of the dumbest things I've ever read in my entire life, and if you liked it, you're an idiot and I hate you. D tier.
シュタインズゲートアニメ
Look, maybe we should just skip over this one. I mean, I've talked about the anime so much. I don't want to talk about it again. Yes, I do. Fuck, okay. You know what? Fine. You got me. The only reason I'm even making this video reviewing so many mediocre radio plays is so I can talk about this just a little more. So, sue me. It's the best anime ever. What are you gonna do about it, huh? Bitch? Yeah, I mean, I've already spent multiple videos on this already, so it's not like I'm gonna sit here repeating myself. Yes, I am. Fuck! But the anime is just objectively the best version of Steins Gate, and if you disagree, you're not only wrong, but you're wrong and can eat shit, idiot. That's right. That's right.
未来ガジェットコンパクトディスク1号ニコ生ラジオ未来ガジェット電波局ラジオ未章動画のメタフィクション
I'm just gonna say it. The characters threatening to spoil the broadcast of the anime, which by the way you'll notice was currently airing when this was released, live on Nico Nico, then reacting to fan comments is getting into scary levels of meta. Oh, that explains the title. Well, this was made to introduce every single character to people who might be interested in the anime. We also get a really terrible introduction to every future gadget. This is where I really started to realize the problem with the tier list, that Steins Gate is at its best when it's the most pointless. And this is so pointless that it goes into B tier, not A tier. Listen, it's been a rough couple of years making this video. I'm doing my best, okay?
雑誌コンプティークオリジナルドラマ CD
Three drama CDs sold with the Turbo Weeb magazine Comptic. Well, Turbo Weeb is about right because the first one features Okabe getting isekai'd into high school and almost getting raped by Yandere Kurisu. I don't think I need to explain any further for you to figure out whether or not this is your bag, but this almost certainly informed a high school isekai manga that would be published not too long after, because Jesus Christ, dude. Unfortunately, you can almost smell the capitalism dripping off the other two being published back to back immediately after the anime finished airing, because they're just fucking sad in comparison. Daru falling in love with the beef bowl girl and then the lab members learning to cook. How original. If it was just their original special drama CD, then this would maybe go in B tier, but grouping them together, they get to go in a sad, limpy C.
シュタインズゲート日遅連理のダーリン
I'm gonna be honest, when I read the words Steins Gate dating sim, I expected something a lot more pornographic, or at the very least, a little more aspirationally pornographic as per the Chaos Head dating sim. But no, this was a serious entry that not only elevates, but wait. Maybe this would be a little more productive if I just tell you that I don't even know if I'd like this anymore even if it was pornographic. I know, I'm serious. Okay, let's put it this way. I get like a lot of comments saying that they'd like to see a sequel to Steins Gate that's literally just a slice of life where Okabe and Kurisu just kinda hang out. And it's really puzzling that this never got an anime adaptation because that's literally what this is, but for every single character. This is A tier. Watch my full review.
未来ガジェットコンパクトディスク5号
Ooh, we get our first untranslated drama CD. This is a fun one. Think of how many people just assumed the last translated one ended on a cliffhanger after Daru drank Okabe's love potion and professed his eternal horniness for Okabe's dong. Well, you're wrong. The translator just never got around to doing unappreciated work for free, idiot. Luckily, you have me to— What? No, Jesus, no, I'm not gonna translate it. I will tell you what happens and then act all smug that I can speak Japanese and you can't, though. Starting with how this didn't end on a cliffhanger, that was the whole episode, and the rest of it is just a bigger cascade of nonsense than Fooly Cooly. The next episode being them literally watching the Steins Gate anime until episode 12 when Moeka accidentally blows up the TV. Yeah, this is just a lot of the most insane nonsense on this entire fucking tier list compressed into one CD. The next bit involving Unuka sending a D-mail while Daru falls in love with Okabe again before Okabe unveils his time machine and they decide to time travel 10 years into the past so Mayuri can revisit her childhood, turning them all into children before then going 50 years in the future, predictably turning them all into old grannies. And then they get a cat, which causes Okabe to get jealous and Freaky Friday the entire goddamn lap. Obviously, this is A-tier material, unless maybe I'm just saying that so I can laugh maniacally while acting even more smug. You'll never know! Fucking idiots.
シュタインズゲートコミックアンソロジータイムトラベラーズテール
This is another comic anthology, 3 of them even. Honestly, I'm not actually sure what the difference is between all of them besides the slightly cooler name, but if you think that rewards it a higher rating, well, my friend, that depends on the number of shower scenes in it. Oh, come on, don't act surprised, B tier.
星屑のデュプレット
Hey, has anyone played through My Darling's Embrace and just thought, you know, this, but a manga done by someone who would rather be drawing pornography? Maybe if I just show you the award for the world's horniest mangaka in the shape of this massive panel of Kurisu's camel toe and just kind of stare into the camera a bit while loudly wondering why he literally did this twice? You kind of see the problem I'm trying to get at here. I'm inclined to put it into B, but this one's actually going all the way down into its own. You need Jesus here because seriously get help.
シュタインズゲート
While I would say this is a collection of barely elevated ecchi pieces where they have mice run down Suzuha's slightly too ample shirt, this one does get special bonus points for being the only manga where the lab members get together and draw their own doujin for Comic-Con. It does lose basically all those points for never actually showing the doujin, or at the very least the suggestion of it, which was supposed to be a likely pornographic Kurisu x Mayuri ship, but it's not like I don't already have that in my collection. C tier.
シュタインズゲートドロップス
Given that they ended up making adaptations of 3 different routes of My Darling's Embrace, I wasn't sure what the point of Steins Gate Drops was because it's literally just completely random short illustrated scenes from the game. That is until I remember there's a scene where they go to the water park and we get to see everyone's titties. Until I realized I'd literally just finished exercising my computer after that last review, at which point I realized the title wasn't the lowest effort thing about this production. While I don't want to say a collection of, at the very least, ecchi adjacent scenes has no merit, I will say that this is definitely one of the most pointless things on this tier list. C tier.
シュタインズゲートコミックフラグメンツ平行世界のシノプシス
Now, this doesn't get the record for horniest mangaka because, dear god, that's still Stardust duplet. Actually, wait, I have a theory. Given how close each of these were to Comic-Con in the middle of the anime airing, maybe they were just leaning into all of the doujins it already had and would obviously continue to be released because, wow, there's some wild shit in here, like the one where everyone has the exact opposite personality, or the one where the world is literally ruled by Jill Nanas and they fight World War III, or the one where they make an evil hot pot that's so bad they realize they're on the wrong timeline. But no one's gonna remember those over the scene where they looted Kurisu and Ferris together in the shower. Congratulations, guys, you successfully wrote yourself into a pornographic corner. When you finally take a sec to breathe and embrace the post-nut clarity, maybe the next few manga will end up being a tad more reasonable. C tier.
肥沃連理のスイーツハニー
Two words. Steins Gate Isekai. Now, hopefully you didn't just shut off your phone and start screaming into the void, because this one is actually one of the best manga on this list. Why? I have no fucking idea. While this started out as an adaptation of the Kurisu route in My Darling's Embrace, some drunken nutjob was like, hey, you know that SAO thing all the weebs are on about? What if they did that, and also they were in high school, and instead of clearing the game, Okabe's goal is to get laid? Look, maybe it's the sizzling irony written to Okabe's character that somehow elevates what have otherwise been at best a C-tier eroge plot, or maybe I am just actually as degenerate as they come, but along with My Darling's Embrace, this could have easily been an actual animated sequel and no one would bat an eye. A tier for sure.
変異空間のオクテット
I love text adventures. I don't know what it is. I mean, sure, they're kind of dumb and convoluted. Sure, they're even more tragically obsolete than the genre that killed them in the first place. And sure, they usually tend to follow the same logic train as a rabid ferret on LSD. But there's just something about that little text prompt that itches my imagination. I don't know. Something, infinite possibilities, something, choice of Steins Gate. What were we talking about? Oh, right. Check my full review because this is A tier.
アンソロジードラマ CD 原始空間のリユニオン
A collection of 2 drama CDs, one where Kurisu ends up taking place in a cosplay convention, and then oh god, wait, hold on. You need to hear this.
三次元女になんか騙されちゃダメだぞ
Okay, so that was amazing. Unfortunately, the second story in this one involves Okabe getting a cold and then everyone almost killing him trying to cure it, and then they eat takoyaki like a bunch of fucking chumps. On average, we're gonna put this one in low B tier for the cosplay thing because that shit makes me sweat.
ソフマップドラマ CD 混沌必至のプレゼンテーション
Look fam, I know this movie teaser is possibly the most fun you had writing one of these stupid radio plays, but you don't need to have Kurisu's actor tell me that the lab's fake sports magical girl romance harem mecha anime isn't actually what the real movie is about. I mean, I think I can figure that out on my own. That being said, my one question after listening to this is how on earth has no one translated this yet? I mean, into English. I mean, I did find this in Chinese on Bilibili, where actually, can we talk about how fucking weirdly dystopian this site is? Leaving aside the rampant piracy, like the Steins Gate movie literally has 10 million views, and that's like, you know, for some reason just considered okay. This is literally just Nico Nico, complete with Daru-esque comments asking if this was a Yuri scene flying across the screen, only you're also constantly being prompted to sign up with your WeChat account. Like what? You need to give your data to the world's most authoritarian government just to watch low-quality bootlegs on your discount Chinese Nico Nico? Is this not the weirdest kind of dystopia? No? Just me? Hello? Xi Jinping? What? Hello? This goes in B tier, by the way.
横行ばっこのポリオマニア
If you're not familiar with the title, because let's be honest, at this point they're just giving a bag of refrigerator magnets to their dog and praying for a miracle. This is the epilogue episode. It's perfect. I don't know, what else can I say that it gives you literally everything you'd want in an epilogue, save for maybe a blowjob and a sandwich? It has as much fun as possible with the characters while helping us imagine a bright new future. It ties a nice bow around everything while still leaving it open-ended. If you somehow haven't seen it, you need to stop this video right now and go watch it. That's how serious I am. It's more important than YouTube views. Jesus fucking Christ. This goes along with the rest of the anime in S tier, obviously.
肥沃連理のフューチャーハニー
So this isn't bad. It's just that the Suzuha route was by far the worst of the short stories in My Darling's Embrace, what with it just being straight up wincest. Do people really want this? Of all the different routes, did Japanese weebs really want this one? Like, at all? Instead of, you know, any of the other remaining routes. Now, to be fair, the other routes they did adapt, Stardust Duplet as well as the Crucian Ferris routes, would be my first three choices, but having gone and done that, and given the choice between Labman Battle of the Bands, the one where Ruka and Okabe train to fight a literal fucking dragon, and Daru's Happy Wincest Town, I honestly can't fathom the universe where this is the one that gets adapted. And look, I get that the point is that it doesn't end up happening, but the fact that 90% of the story is spent on Daru trying to bang his daughter kind of makes this... Can you guys be honest with me for a sec here? Is this my fault? Am I the problem? Am I the idiot here? I don't fucking know, man. Okay, fine. I get why people read this. It's for this scene right here. There, we did it. Can we put this into C tier and move on already? Thank you.
愛心メイズのバベル
Okay, now that we're finally on to the first actual version of Babel of the Grieved Maze, this is Steins Gate but Kurisu, which is one of those things that got tried like 8 times over this entire tier list, but this is the only one that I'd actually call good. It's more than good even, it's great! Where did Kurisu go after leaving the lab, before running back from the train station? Not only does it answer every single one of these questions, it somehow humanizes the worst character in the entire story without making him any less of an unforgivable asshole. That is good writing. Now, you might remember that I said the original drama CD was a little undercooked, and if that was a tad undercooked, this one is burnt to a crisp because it would have been S tier if it didn't go on for an entire goddamn volume after the story actually ended. Dear anime industry, maybe learn to show a little fucking restraint sometimes. A tier.
平位空間のオクテット
Shit like the variant Space Octet manga is why we created the mostly pointless tier. Riddle me this, Batman. You created a game in a genre that requires the player to do a bunch of mostly pointless shit, then filled it with said mostly pointless shit, and then decided directly adapting the events of said game would be a story interesting enough to publish and sell for literal money. If I didn't know firsthand how few drugs there are in Japan, I would have said literally everyone involved in the creation of this fucking acid trip of a manga was on something wild. This goes in the exact middle of C tier because this is the kind of shit that makes me question whether or not I'm high, dude.
記憶小入りのプラスニャンニャンクライシス
Is it just me, or does anyone else think this story about a turbo-capitalist whoring out weeaboo culture to make a quick buck kind of loses something when it's turned out as a cheaply written manga to cash in on the value of a tasty new IP? I mean, if you were wondering why they apparently needed to include the pool scene in literally every adaptation of My Darling's Embrace, I don't know what to tell you. While the original bit about Fittis and Okabe fighting for the art of maid cafes with the bureaucracy of the tax office was clever as shit, in the context of this manga, and let's be honest, this entire fucking tier list, this more and more starts to sound less like a clever subversion and more a cry for help. Save us, King of Weeaboos, they say. Save us from the icy hand of capitalism. Bring back the demand for humor and wit and the indomitable human spirit. Bring back motherfucking art. We humans are powerless, butterflies flapping against the winds of horny weeaboos. Let's stop this before this video gets completely derailed. This is going up in A tier, not necessarily because it's all that good, it's mostly just fine, but the sheer amount of black tar irony oozing out of this one is something fucking spectacular.
アンソロジードラマ CD2 シュタインズゲート無限法要のバケーション
Yes, having started all these spin-offs with what is basically pornography, they realized that they'd entirely skipped over the softcore heaven that is the inevitable beach episode. And then they said, screw it, it's actually a murder mystery, you fucking buffoons. This is so much better than it has any right to be. I'd call this an absurdist art piece if it was any less coherent, but somehow solving the mystery of Daru's murdered body pillow turned into a bunch of hallucinations on a desert island ends up being one of the better radio plays they made. Easily the closest any of these CDs comes to what you'd call art. A tier.
遮影局面のエピキタシー
When weebs look at me funny when I say that Steins Gate Zero is a bunch of derivative wank trying to be Steins Gate again without understanding how the story works, I point to the introduction of Maho in Epitaxy of the Protected Closed Surface, where she is used as a mirror to explore the lab and Kodisu's life. So when they take this character, who was, in her first appearance here, literally written to not have a personality and just make her one of the key figures of the sequel, I just kinda stare back at them and wonder how I occupy the same physical reality as them. I don't wanna say this is bad, but let's be honest, it is thoroughly pointless. C tier.
人工騎士域のパンデミア
You know, if I didn't know the audience so well, I'd say it's impressive how long they kept up this bit where Daru turns the lab into an eroge just to introduce the concept of the Amadeus AI Kurisu and Maho work on. But realistically, it's the literal opposite. Let's be honest, not only are you going to be far better served by any random doujin you'll pick up, the lab as eroge concept was done far better in the Steins Gate Isekai, and by comparison, this is just a sad attempt at fan service that isn't creative enough to even pretend to be pornography. C tier.
異在言外のフラクタル
Okay, so there's mostly bullshit, and then there's... How do I put this? It's about Nai following Moeka and Mr. Braun around while they're secretly doing freaky sex shit. Except it turns out that all the lovey-dovey stuff he keeps talking about is regarding his daughter, obviously. I'd say this is cute, but this goes on for like 25 minutes, so either the writers are the world's most boring idiots, or they think we are. Listen, fucker, something that is cute over 4 minutes doesn't magically get cuter when you repeat it 6 times. And, or, when you have Nai literally try to kill Moeka for sleeping with her father. Look, I know Nai is the yandere character in the original, but A, that was easily the worst part of the visual novel, and it's not even close. And B, even if that did make sense, that does not mean you can randomly transplant that to any other context and have it magically work. Yikes. Bottom of C tier.
劇場版シュタインズゲート不可領域のデジャブオーディオドラマインツゴモリ曲折のシンフォニア
Okay, so if the movie was a horny fever dream, the accompanying spin-off where Kurisu literally fantasizes about getting a hotel room to have sweaty drunk sex with Okabe is that fever dream's sleep paralysis demon's horny fever dream. I have no idea what the fuck to say about this one, except that it's mandatory listening for every future doujin author. I want to say B tier, but I'd be lying to you if I said I knew for sure that that wasn't my penis talking.
典型拘束のフェノグラム
Alright, idiots, it's time for my first hot take of the video. This should have been Steins Gate Zero. As in, this should have been the animated official sequel to Steins Gate. I mean, first of all, that's what it literally fucking is. Sure, it's a collection of short stories, but they all take place after Steins Gate in, spoiler for Steins Gate if you've somehow watched this far without having seen it, the timeline where Mayuri dies, not Curtis, which, and I've made like 3 videos on this you can go watch, but like, this is just fundamentally the only sequel that actually makes any sense. But this review is about Linear Bounded Phonogram. Somehow, what was supposed to be this eclectic collection of absurdist short stories told from each character's point of view like a horny weeaboo Game of Thrones fanfiction is the best, most serious piece of Steins Gate fiction besides Steins Gate itself. Hey look, when you give writers the freedom to just do weird shit instead of churning out the 20th adaptation of the same fucking swimsuit scene, artists can be pretty creative, what do you know? This is beyond excellent and goes into S tier.
劇場版シュタインズゲート不可領域のデジャブ
I guess if the 10 straight minutes of sucking its own dick the movie starts off with wasn't a big enough hint, this one is made for Steins Gate fans to an absolutely shameless degree. So, as the world's greatest Steins Gate fan, what do I have to say about it? Is it good? Now, dear God, this is a train wreck, but Despite that, I somehow still like it. While the plot itself is the coked out fever dream of a horny salaryman, fundamentally, this is Steins Gate but Kurisu, and everything that goes along with that. And so while the execution is a load of hot wank, I'd be lying if I said it didn't do a lot of things very, very right. Also, this is literally just Kimi no Nawa, and when I asked 2channel to tell me what the origin of this plot device is, they just laughed at me, and so, dear God, I still do need someone to tell me. B tier.
劇場版シュタインズゲート不可領域のデジャブオーディオドラマ赤面必至のゴシップ
While a bunch of girls talking about Daru's budding love interest is quite possibly the single lamest idea on this list, somehow it eventually just turns into everyone shit-talking Kurisu about her feelings for Okabe, which is just, you know, nice. Up yours, Kurisu. Just say you love him already. I mean, you've already made us listen to your Kinky Hotel Fever Dream CD several times since yesterday. You horny bitch. B tier.
劇場版シュタインズゲート不可領域のデジャブオーディオドラマ現存在のアポステリオリ
Remember how we said the movie is just Steins Gate but Kurisu if it didn't make sense? And you know how the future Okabe in an alternate timeline struggled for years building the time machine just to bring him back to that reality? Well, imagine that, but Kurisu, but it also still doesn't make sense. I'm tempted to put it into C tier for the sheer amount of fan service circle jerk going on, but I'll be damned. Just like the movie, it's actually still pretty good. Like, if it didn't also star a cutesy wannabe child Suzuha, this maybe would have been the best drama CD. B tier.
承認共鳴のパターン
Okay, fine, you got me. I'm not actually reviewing every spin-off, but only because the number of spin-off light novels is bigger than the number of total books I've read in Japanese so far. That being said, I did pick up this untranslated novella that came with the movie. They actually made 2, but apparently they're kind of rare because I could only find the 1, and it's not that good anyway. It's an epilogue set about a year after the end of the anime, after Nai has gone into middle school, told from Moeka's point of view as she works in the Brown Tube workshop. And yeah, that's literally it. It's just 10 pages of establishing that Moeka is okay, which, like, I don't want to say this is bad. The end of the anime already did this way better in about 10 seconds, which places this by default into C tier.
次元臨点のアルペジオ
Yet another untranslated CD. Basically, they go to a university school festival, which is totally way different than a high school festival, and Okabe starts freaking out about people thinking he has no friends. I'd say seeing Okabe out in the real world around a bunch of fucking normies helps put his character into perspective, but this gets somewhat undermined by Daru commentating a wrestling match with Moeka and Suzuha, and also a beauty contest that Ruka wins naturally. Beyond this, it's actually kind of cute. You know how originally Kurisu assumes Okabe is some kind of legitimate scientist because of his stupid fucking lab coat? Well, here he gets mistaken as a professor helping Maho, and they get close, and she eventually becomes the legendary lab mem number 009. This random audience member is probably crying now.
ラボメンナンバー009はお前だ。
B tier.
ゲート帰極戦のエピグラフ
Okay, stop. We need to talk before we go any further because a lot of people seem to think this manga got cancelled. The series, of which this is the first entry, did, but Epigraph itself just never had the second half translated while the other entries did. Fan subs, am I right? Well, I guess this is just my opportunity to mansplain what happens and exactly what the fuck is wrong with it. Like, hey, if you like Steins Gate, then you must like this thing that's the exact opposite of Steins Gate in basically every single way, right? What? No? Okay, look, this is the first part of the Epigraph trilogy, which became the basis for Steins Gate Zero. I don't actually know why they thought a series that got cancelled halfway through would be a good basis for a sequel, but I guess if you just give it the old official branding, people will buy whatever the fuck you spoon feed them. No, it's not the part where this just devolves into car chases and explosions and shit, although that's part of it. It's more that the authors of Epigraph of the Closed Curve seem almost immune to the concept of irony. The thing that makes Steins Gate, you know, Steins Gate? Like, when you just start sticking random weeaboo shit into the car chase scene just to have that there, this tells me that whoever wrote this only understood Steins Gate on a very surface level. It feels like reading an entirely different manga, but just using the likeness of each of the characters, or at least it would be if Okabe's face was even remotely similar to what it actually looks like. Also, apparently the authors thought that an AI refusing to answer questions is proof of sentience somehow. Here's the thought. Maybe, just maybe, people who couldn't pass the Turing test themselves should not be writing science fiction about AI? C tier.
シュタインズゲートダイビングアドベンチャー
You know, I could tell you that they put Steins Gate on stage and that it's far better than it has any right to be, and then spend the next 15 minutes trying to pick your jaw up off the floor, or I could just hit you with my hottest take of the video. I'm not joking. Every time I see this, I die a little inside, knowing that even though I live in Japan and speak Japanese, I will never get a chance to see this live. It's actually just that good. I'd say I don't know where to start, but I've already made more than one video drooling over how unbelievably fucking good this is, and not just because I'm one of the weebs responsible for translating it into English. How about this? When I say that the anime is just objectively better than the visual novel, it's shit like this that gives me complete validation, because they use the anime's script as the basis for this stage play, for condensing the complete essence of Steins Gate down to a breezy 3-hour play that misses absolutely no major story or character beats. Oh, and remember that best version of Babel of the Grieved Maze I was going on about? Well, if one stellar play wasn't enough, they literally ran 6 different endings, one for each route in the visual novel, and that's what they used for the Kurisu ending. Yeah, they just casually wrote the single best Steins Gate side story as just one of the endings to their turbo fucking weeaboo stage play. I actually have no idea what they could have done to improve this. Maybe run it again now that I'm living here and speak Japanese and can actually go see it, you goddamn assholes. Brother, I would kill a bitch to go see this. 2 even.
科学アドベンチャーシリーズスペシャルドラマ CD 総卒連鎖のトリプティック偶像皆無のステージ
Luca becomes an idol. Luca becomes an idol. Luca becomes an idol. If this isn't something that you're interested in, well, look, you know whether or not this is for you or not. Not gonna say this is even remotely mandatory viewing, but this is definitely for you if you have even a little bit of a humiliation fetish. Sorry, what? B tier.
無限遠天のアークライト
Finally, that good drama CD I was going on about gets a manga adaptation, as this one what if spin-off somehow becomes actual Steins Gate canon. It's not bad. No, it's probably as good as the drama CD. It's just, as we inch closer to Steins Gate 0, this being released alongside the Epigraph trilogy, I'm starting to see the wires get crossed as the dollar signs light up in the producer's eyes. And honestly, that makes me just kind of sad. This really should have been good, and it is. But I just can't in good conscience place this one any higher than B tier.
英語回帰のパンドラ
So, this is the one that got canceled, and it's honestly not terrible. It's the part of Steins Gate 0 where they talk to Kurisu about time machines and then Russians try to steal her, but it gets cut off before it really starts to devolve into a bunch of ridiculous James Bond shit. This is the only one of these where Maho has like any ounce of personality, so I don't want to say it's awful, but honestly, I might have even given it B tier, but given that it got canceled before it actually went anywhere, whatever point this had to exist just kind of melts away into C tier.
不可領域のデジャブ
Remember how we said the movie was a bunch of wank for hardcore fans? Well, imagine when they made the manga, they censored the shower scenes and took out the bit looking down Kurisu's shirt. God damn, I know I go on a lot about pointless fan service, but it's literally the main draw of the movie. This would be like outlawing pornography, but only the part where they show the genitals. I mean, I think maybe you're missing the point just a little. C tier.
聡明英知のコグニティブコンピューティング
If you have no idea why I just showed you that clip of Kurisu having an orgasm over the side of a chair, I'm finna be honest, neither do I. I have absolutely no idea why this exists. IBM apparently paid White Fox to create an anime about an AI language model that helps them cook, navigate, shop, and find a new apartment. Now, if you're like, wait a second, that checks out, let me remind you that 2014 was 10 years ago. There are several companies trying to pretend that their generative language model is the literal bee's knees, dude, and IBM is not one of them. Is this what giant tech companies do? They just spend money on random shit telling people how they're gonna change the world and never once follow up on that? Can that be my job? If you can't tell, spouting a bunch of bullshit and then saying I'm awesome is kind of my fucking thing, bro. Listen, if anyone who works at IBM has a large budget that they need to blow on something stupid like this, please email me. I can promise you it'll probably be worth your time. B tier.
ゲート記曲線のエピグラフエクストラクトシーンズ
Pop quiz. What's the fastest way to make someone cry? Well, short of giving them a free packet of tissues advertising your maid cafe, you could play a 2-minute emotionally charged radio drama that, oh, sorry, you said to make someone cry. Yeah, this is a collection of random bonus scenes revolving around epigraph of the closed curve that all for some reason try to hit emotional triggers in less time than your average anime OP. I don't want to say this is like bad, but wow, are these pointless. C tier.
CR シュタインズゲート未来ガジェット319号機
Look, I will do almost anything to commit to a bit, like, say, watching literally every time travel anime ever made. But developing a crippling gambling addiction is where I draw the line. Thank God, too, because the animated pachinko scenes are just animated scenes from the visual novel, and now that we have Steins Gate Elite, we have a second colossal waste of money, but at least that one will not make you deaf, like... Okay, fine. To tell the truth, there's a couple endings based on drama CDs rather than actual VN routes, but see, the only one that's an actual full thing rather than a 2-minute clip is based on Distant Valhalla, which is about Daru's relationship with Yuki and just reeks of fan service pseudo-sequel rather than actual meaningful character development. Not good. C tier.
モノローグドラマ黎明のライアアイーン市長のアマデウス聖望のアリア催涙雨のパドル
When I say I don't care about a series of 5-minute monologues from the heart, no, Dad, the problem is not that talking about your feelings is gay. Not that these monologues about the characters' innermost thoughts are poorly written, just that rather than a short radio play sold for actual money, they more closely resemble something that I would have written for one of my shitty videos, only more pointless because I actually have something to say. This is just trying to do in 5 minutes what took the anime several hours without really adding anything new or interesting. I'd stop and ask why, but I guess that would have taken actual effort. C tier.
シュタインズゲートゼロ適応放散のパラダイスロスト
You know, when you watch really bad sci-fi, you can almost smell what the authors were watching before sitting down and shitting on their keyboard. In the case of anime, that show was almost always Steins Gate, except for this case, being a spin-off of Steins Gate, instead rips off a bunch of random JRPG tropes, and if that feels like it wouldn't really fit Steins Gate, you're starting to see the fucking problem. Like, maybe after 50 or so spin-offs, they're starting to run out of ideas, but if they went through so many and still managed to make Steins Gate 0 a churned-out derivative hack job, maybe it's time to go write something new? How many entries do we have on this list? Oh, Jesus fuck no, C tier.
シュタインズゲートゼロ電撃コミックアンソロジー
Despite my gripes with Steins Gate 0, I actually really like these. The issue I have with a lot of these short stories, and by a lot I mean almost all of them because goddamn, is that they just keep trying to play off the same tired tropes and gags that built up the anime, but then why not just go and watch the fucking anime? And not that it unveils some grandiose revelations about each of the characters, but these comics do have them grow in subtle ways. Suzuha learning to be more feminine, Mahou trying to be seen as an adult while Nai does her best to be seen as someone who could see Mahou as the adult she is, or the one where Mayuri hands Mahou away Dr. Pepper. No, seriously, it's really cute. Of course, this doesn't help that a large number of these fall back on the Mahou equals lolly gag, particularly the one where they make her a fucking detective, or the one where Okabe gets arrested for being a pedophile. But what sold me on these in the end was the one where Daru goes on a date with Yuki and tries to act cool by using as much random bullshit English as possible. So they do get it. In that case, I have just one remaining question for Japan then. What the fuck? Okay, no, I lied. The one that sold me is the very last one where he sees Santa Kurisu. It's a bunch of fanservice bullshit, but it also somehow manages to be genuinely touching in like only 10 pages. Seriously, I'm almost tempted to put this in A tier because some of these are just that good, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. These are still packed with a bunch of bullshit as well. B tier.
シュタインズゲートゼロ
Now, if you've watched any of my videos, like, say, this one, you've probably noticed that I hate both Steins Gate Zero and almost every single manga on this list, and might think that that would be a strong sign that I double hate this and think it's a piece of shit. And while I do commend your elite pattern recognition skills, this is actually not that bad. Mostly because while this is a somewhat condensed version of the story, it's not the 3-volume dumpster fire of the original's mangalization, and basically results in a better paced version of the story without any of the bullshit. And by without, I mean of course there's no way in hell my free Reddit karma farming stopped with this, but it did slow down just enough to cop a few choice titties. That being said, removing said bullshit shines a huge glaring light on the biggest issue with the story. Sorry, the second biggest. The biggest obviously being that somehow the writers left out every hint of irony in every single one of the characters, leaving them as the empty, cliched tropes they were supposed to be fucking playing off of in the first What I'm trying to say is that this is a story about a bunch of socially incompetent weebs stopping World War III by building a time machine, filled with a truckload of painfully obvious plot twists and cackling stereotypical villains. Guys, this is the plot of a really shitty 80s action B-movie. If this wasn't called Steins Gate, you maybe would have paid $15 to see it once in theaters and then forgotten everything that happened the literal next day. I mean, I could go all media literacy on you and point out that Okabe doesn't give a shit about World War III, much less the world, and a big part of what makes Steins Gate so good is that he does what he does in spite of it being the right thing, not because of it. I could point out that this is the entire reason the original had no real villains, that when Zero actually just throws him into World War III, not only is this just silly, it questions the motivations Okabe had for doing what he does. I could say, guys, Daru has a secret fucking hacker base inside of a laundromat with a trapdoor exit. They try to put Kurisu's memories into another person so they can brainwash her because she's too unhackable. Like, I know for most weeaboos your entire sense of cultural awareness comes from anime, but given just how obsessed the 80s were with Japan, this is really not an excuse. This is why stories like Steins Gate should never have sequels. They can never live up to the original, and even if they somehow could, the need to stand out often means either throwing the original under a bus, or what the anime did and literally just try to be the original again, but also shit. Look, the manga is going in B tier because it at least lives up to shitty 80s B-movie fiction, but can we talk for a sec? It's not Steins Gate, and I wouldn't so much as give it the time of day were it not for all the weebs trying to pretend that it is.
孫章親愛の橋田ファミリア
Look, if we're not surprised that the very first spin-off is basically porn, we're not allowed to be surprised that the last one is either. Well, second last. Well, one of the last ones. The last one's Hello Kitty, but let's be honest, that might as well have been fucking porn. Whatever, listen. This one's about Daru being married and sneaking off to buy dojins at Comiket because porn, haha, how funny. If the idea of hearing about a somehow married man's quest for porn is your idea of a good time, sure, you might enjoy it, but for everyone else, maybe watch one of my dojin reviews instead. C tier.
悠久無限の橋田コンチェルト
Okay, look, I get it. I'm exaggerating some of these reviews a little. But really, they felt the need to make 3 fucking drama CDs of Daru being a pervert but actually a respectable person. What do I even say about all of them? Here's the thing, man. We know Daru is a straight up good dude. That was the joke, that despite all of his shit, he's extremely reliable and cares about his friends. That's why he's Okabe's my favorite right arm. This is what you'd call a dissecting the frog moment, where it stops working because you've put a fucking shotgun to the head of whatever sense of subtlety was in his character. This isn't like horrible, but there's absolutely no reason for this to exist. C tier. Oh, did I mention there's one part left? God damn it.
シュタインズゲートゼロ混合焙煎のエンカウンター
Shit like this is what almost makes me think Steins Gate's success was an accident. I mean, sure, Kurisu was a massive stereotype, but a completely ironic subversion of it. Here, they're almost fucking worried people would miss that Maho is a tsundere, but also a lolly. Ah, jeez. Maybe if you get her to say the words, I hate you, a few dozen more times, I'd finally get it. Look, I know when people are like, no, you can't say that Zero's writers didn't understand Steins Gate. Shiromaru worked on both. And I'm like, yeah, just swapping out 3 of the writers couldn't possibly have changed anything. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. I guess I'll just go fuck myself. You know, they kind of have a point. If the person in charge is the same, how the shit do they miss the mark so hard? Yeah, no, on second thought, maybe I will just go fuck myself. What were we talking about? Oh, right, yeah. The point of this story is that Maho and Kurisu apparently became friends because they almost had a hot Yori Tsundere makeout sesh, but didn't. That's it, man. Snore. C tier.
休暇三福の橋田小美馬
Somehow the whole Daru being Daru but having a kid story is somewhat more creepy when the kid is now in middle school. Yeah, I don't know, man. Not that any of these 3 are good, but this is easily the worst one. Maybe because it feels like the writers had 3 different ideas and couldn't be asked to actually make them work properly, so just fucked off to the soapland and left us to figure it out. Or maybe it's that this one just goes on for a whole goddamn hour. Don't listen to this. Oh my god. C tier.
自由粒子のランナウェイ
A couple years ago, when I reviewed literally every time travel anime, I ranked a show with a fucking baby as the main character at number 7. Why? Unlike apparently every other anime, and also this drama CD, it understands that kid doing kid things is being too lazy even for anime stereotypes, and they still need to be actual goddamn characters. Now, there is an argument to be made that Kaigari in Runaway of the Free Particles is only there to have Kurisu when she calls Okabe daddy, and while this and all the other bullshit here would make this easily one of the better drama CDs, this only goes so far when you want to punch the kid every time she opens her goddamn mouth. This goes in C tier for just cut off my dick, dude.
シュタインズゲートエリート
As the result of the drunken debate over which is better, the visual novel or the anime, it's honestly quite fitting that the end product more closely resembles a bunch of spew narrowly missing the toilet bowl than an actual game anyone would want to play. I mean, the producers were apparently also shit-faced out of their minds the entire time they were working on this, because this not only cuts way too many corners to actually be a productive use of anyone's time, they also somehow cut out literally everything that made either the anime or the visual novel great, making this less the best of both worlds and more the ass of both asses. Shut up, I'm not putting any more effort into this metaphor than the producers did. Go watch my full review. D tier.
ファミコレ ADV シュタインズゲート
As someone who grew up with not only a NES, but a fondness for absurdly pointless Flash pre-loader games, this is conceptually easily my favorite spin-off. Listen. I know, god fucking damn, I almost want to put this into S tier just for that. But I have to be objective here, and while this has its moments, the concept is really the only thing this has going for it, and it wears off well before the 2-hour runtime. That said, the amount of detail crammed into what I can only assume started as a joke is goddamn admirable, and as a result, this is going in B tier.
共演のワルキューレ
Look, after apparently 68 reviews. We need to just be straight here. Is this poorly written? No. Is it even kind of good? Yes. Am I starting to question my sanity, wondering why this even exists? No, friend, we are long past that one. This is, characters hang out during the dystopia and invent the time machine by throwing a party, which is basically just trying to run the events of the anime back, but in different words that don't necessarily make sense. Well, this was clever when Ryan North did it. After the 80 millionth time, or at the very least the 69th time, my eyes just kind of started to glaze over. If you haven't listened to any of the other drama CDs, this is one of the better ones. But if you have, dear God, stop. Yes, Mom, this one is a cry for help. B tier.
開口遭遇のゴルディヒパーティ
The Hello Kitty game is one of the titles I did an actual full review on, and while it was amusing enough for the brief 15 minutes it somehow managed to put out before running out of breath and asking for $20, I'm gonna be honest with you, literally just the concept of a Steins Gate Hello Kitty crossover is by far the most interesting idea about this. It's free, you can go play it, or you could get basically the same experience by turning on the anime while seeing how much pocky you can fit up your nose. C tier.
マーダーミステリーシュタインズゲート唯一無二のピスティス
Murder mystery cafes are a thing I literally didn't know existed until pretty recently when I was researching for this very video, but I think it's similar to the concept of Jubensha. From the sheer number of scenarios available, I'm honestly shocked I've never heard of this until now, but basically, you have a story with X number of people, and you each have a roleplay booklet with information about your character, their goals and motivations, and you have to talk amongst yourselves and figure out who did what. So, I wasn't exactly sure what to expect since you don't actually play as the lab members, but one of their friends. So I was wondering if they just had like 8 actors for each character or something, but no, obviously that's insane, and there's just the game master in the role of Okabe or Suzuha, and then you talk to your assigned character via email with your phone. Basically, the story is Mayuri time leaps back from the future to save Okabe, and you have to save him and send him back to the original world line, as well as stop the lab from being blown up and everyone dying. So, while each character had their own motivations, this was a little more collaborative than a regular murder mystery, and also because you couldn't really lose. We didn't, but the GM said afterwards that if you did, you got to reset until you get it right. Essentially, this was like super beginner level game, which is just as well because while I do have N1 Japanese, not only does this require you to understand all the clues from your character and the narrative explanation, and then talk with 7 other players about all of their motivations, and also figure out who is lying to you. This entire thing is like 4 hours long, so around halfway through, I started having trouble keeping track of what was going on. Luckily, however, I picked Mayuri because I assumed she would be the easiest, which was basically correct because she had one really essential piece of information for solving the mystery, but beyond that, nothing I did was actually that important. Anyway, at the end, we got this sick lab mem badge, and this was a total blast. So if anyone actually speaks Japanese, 10 out of 10, highly recommend. So that's it for basically every spin-off you might be thinking of, plus a couple fun bonus entries. And if you've been watching my other videos, I want to thank you because, that's it for this channel. I don't want to say I won't upload anything else here. There is that reboot that's coming up, so you never know, but this is the last major video I wanted to make before putting this project aside. You'll notice my uploads have been kind of sparse and all over the place for the past year and a bit, and the main reason is, one, I no longer have several hours of free time at my fake English teaching job to write YouTube essays every single day. And the second reason is, I think I just kinda lost direction. Like, really, I think I've known for a while that this is gonna be my last video because I feel like once I've shared everything I can about Steins Gate, I really have nothing left to say as the king of weeaboos. I mean, I could, and I obviously have made videos on other things, but really, I don't think anything else does or ever will excite me as much as Steins Gate does, and I think that's okay, and it's just time to move on to other things. So, instead, I will be starting a new channel, doing something completely different. I won't say exactly what I'm doing yet, because that's the fastest way to kill motivation and creativity, but I'll make a post here and on Instagram, if you follow me there, when I have something to share. So, I want to thank everyone who's ever tuned into one of my videos. It's a really great feeling to know that people are listening to your voice, and also that people like Steins Gate as Okay, maybe not as much, but like maybe a little bit close to as much as I do. So I want to thank you for all your time, friends. Oh god, it's been fun.